and microcontroller. So first module was about the block diagram. Second module is basically speaking about the programming of it. Inside that, we have already spoken about the timing diagrams, which is basically the tool of the engineers. Now we are moving into the software domain. That's your instruction set. What is the language of this microprocessor? How do you program this particular microprocessor? How do you make this particular microprocessor work according to your requirements with respect to your program? So what I will do during this particular session, during this particular part of this particular module, is we will do some simulations if possible. We have online simulators available for 8085. Just check out sim 8085. அடுத்த classly we will see that sim 8085 is a simulator, online simulator, which is available for 8085. We will try to write programs using this particular simulator and see how a microprocessor works in the real sense of it. So we will try to learn the assembly programming. We'll give certain examples of it. We will try to focus on the practicality of it rather than the theory of it. But again, theory is important with respect to exams. So I will start off with the basic theory of instruction set today. Okay. So instruction set again is the language of the microprocessor. And here we are speaking about the language of 8085. 8085 in the instruction set is what we are trying to discuss. Okay. So these are some of the things which will be there as part of this module. So you will be speaking about addressing modes, instruction classification, instruction set, assembly language programming for 8085. So this is what we are trying to focus on in this particular part. So today we will stick to first 2 points. The other two are very large and very huge. But again, instructions that I would just briefly run to the instruction set during my sessions. We will focus on assembly language program. I think we have around 74 instructions with different kinds of addressing modes. So all the instructions, mugging it up is difficult. We will just go through these instructions, try to understand what these instructions are. Coding we will be able to assume what this particular instruction is. That we will do later. So today we will stick to the first 2 points. One is addressing mode, the other one is instruction classification. Now instruction in the varayana, we have 2 parts to the instruction. One is the opcode, the other one is the operands. Opcode is the opcode gives you information with respect to what is to be done. Operation, what is going to be done, and the operands will be the operands on which the opcode operates. If you are asked to move something, move is the opcode. Move from word to word. What is going to be moved, and accordingly you will have operands. So you will have to specify operands on which the opcode will operate. So you have an opcode which operates on the operand. So this is your opcode, these are your operands. Okay, so there are different ways of specifying your operands. The data or the operands can be specified in different ways. Okay, so according to the different ways of the operand, you have different addressing schemes. Okay, the ways in which you are specifying your data or your operands, you have different ways of addressing. എങ്ങനെയാണ് നിങ്ങൾ ഈ അഡ്രസ്സ് കൊടുക്കുന്നത്? ഇപ്പോൾ ജിമെയിൽ ആണെങ്കിൽ, നമ്മൾ മെയിൽ ആണെങ്കിൽ, it is usually given as say at the rate. The rate is something which is used to represent a mail. So it's a way of addressing. Post office anengil, you have a particular address. Mobile number anengil, you have different format. So there are different formats or different ways of addressing something. So that is what is being specified here, called as addressing modes. So inside your 8085, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We have already seen this in some point, some way in your computer organization. Similar to that, we have a way of doing it in your 8085. We have around 7 addressing modes. First one is the immediate addressing mode. In the case of immediate, see, MVIR is a fixed thing. So this is not what is changing. The data is acting here as your operand. And the data, when it's directly given, as in your MVI instruction, move immediate, the instruction, if you supply the data along with the instruction, then that particular way of representing the data or the operand is called as immediate addressing. You are immediately giving the data along with the opcode. Okay, so that's your immediate addressing. Now, so MVI is a key word in the opcode which signifies that it is going for a immediate addressing. Now, second one is using your register addressing. So, move RD is basically something which is fixed. The RD move RD ki corresponding at opcode and all. RS is something which is associated with data or you're called as your operand. Okay. Now, RS, which is your source operand, source register, in the case of move operation, can be specified as a register. So that is called as register addressing. So this is where you give the data directly. It's called as immediate addressing. Here you give it as register. It's called as register addressing. Now, a second one, we have already seen that again. Direct addressing with respect to giving the address. Okay, so here in the case of in and out instructions, which we have discussed in the last class, we have specified the address of that input parameter or your output. Input ആയിട്ട് ആക്ട് ചെയ്യുന്ന പെരിഫറൽ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഔട്ട്പുട്ട് ആയിട്ട് ആക്ട് ചെയ്യുന്ന പെരിഫറൽ. ഇൻപുട്ട് പെരിഫറൽ ഈസ് യുവർ mouse or your keyboard. Output peripheral is your display and LCD screen and all. So all these particular instructions, along with that you give a port address. So this way of specifying it is called as direct addressing, where you directly specify the address or the address location of your particular input output device. Okay, so that's called as direct addressing. Then okay, second one is your indirect addressing, where you have a accumulator, you are specifying the value or the memory location inside a register. Okay, so here the address of the value to be loaded into the accumulator is specified inside your register. Register doesn't have data contents, it will have a memory content, memory address, and this particular memory address will be the place where you will have your data. അതായത് RP എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ രജിസ്റ്ററിൽ ഒരു വാല്യൂ ഉണ്ടാവും which is a memory address, and your loading will happen from the memory address specified inside your RP, which is basically called as indirect addressing, where you are not directly giving the address, we are indirectly giving the address using this particular register. So this is called as indirect addressing. That is why it is called as indirect address. Here directly the address is specified, here register value is directly loaded, the immediate addressing data is given. Here RP contains a value which will be acting as your memory address. Okay. Then CMA is implicit. There is no operands associated with it. Complement accumulator. So accumulator value, the whole thing is having no optional operand values. It's called as implicit or implied addressing. So it implies that it is working on accumulator. You need to specify it by yourself. There is no operand or data. This particular instruction works on your A. Then there is stack addressing, which are the instructions like push and pop. You will see that it is associated with stack. Kind of we have already seen what stack memory is, but again we will speak about that when that particular instruction comes into picture. But again, pop and push instruction are it's again register kind of an value, but here it is speaking in terms of your stacks. The register is associated with your stack. That is why it is called as stack addressing. The push and pop commands are the usually commands associated with your stack address. So these are the 7 theoretical addressing modes which are there in your 8085. Okay. Now I will stop with this. So that was addressing modes. In expansions and examples, you can go through the textbook and get it. MVI we have already seen all these with examples. It's a very easy topic for you to learn and then write in the exams. So next one is your instruction classification. So we told that you have a language instruction set. The instruction set can be classified based on what are the type of instructions. So we have basically 5 type of instructions in your 8085. Common instruction will be transfer instructions, copy from this to that, copy from here to there. So that they are called as your data transfer or copying. This is the most instruction down the data transfer or copy operations. So that's one. Second one is arithmetic operation. That means you have add, add operation, and operation. Add operation, sub operation. That will be your arithmetic. Arithmetic operate DA operation, and then I think BCD addition when there is an instruction. So such kind of operations are called as arithmetic operations. Then you have logical operations. That is your and, or, not. The logical operations which are performed, it's usually performed with the help of your accumulator. Okay. That's your logical operation. Then branching operations. That is if else and one other condition implemented in your assembly language will be implemented using a branching. Jump on carry, jump on no carry. There are conditional and unconditional jumps. Simple jump and based on a condition you can make a jump, so they are called as branching operations. Then there are machine control operations, which will be basically controlling NOP operation. Example of a machine control operation, halt operation is there, which will halt the machine. So these are the general type of instructions which are there, and we transfer of data from a source to a destination. It doesn't affect the flags, and you have different types of data transfer operations. That is basically transfer between registers. One second, I'll just set the slideshow running. Okay, between the registers to a register bar memory location, between a register and a memory location, between an IO device and an accumulator. So there are basically 4 types of transfers between registers, data byte directly to a register or a memory location, between a register and a memory location, between an IO device, the in-out instructions, which will be basically dealing with your input-output devices, and an accumulator. So it basically gets a value into the accumulator, from the accumulator to the output device. So these are the basic types of data transfer operations which are there in your 8085. Okay. Then you have arithmetic operations where so this is an example. This is the basics of your data transfer operation. We'll explain on what are the different data transfer operations. So this is basically your data transfer kind of operations between the registers, register memory, and all. Then you have arithmetic operations. You have addition, subtraction, and increment bar decrement. So these are the 3 kinds of arithmetic operations. We don't have multiplication, we don't have divisions. We have addition, subtraction, increment, bar decrement. These are the 3 kinds of arithmetic operations which are supported by 8085. As you can see, these are the basic types of instructions, or basic types of different kinds of instructions. We don't have much complicated kinds of instructions when it comes to 8085, which helps you in understanding your particular microprocessor in a very simple manner. So moving on, arithmetic operations. So how does it operate? You have register contents. So again, it depends upon the addressing mode. One content is always accumulator. In addition, just if you check into it, one content is always an accumulator. Okay, and the result is stored in the accumulator. Even for the subtraction, one content is accumulator, the result is stored in the accumulator. So that's the importance of accumulator. Accumulator is a register which is commonly used as a dump yard for your outputs or the results. Results of most of the operations are stored inside an important register called as accumulator. So in your family, in your particular family, you might have a particular person where you dump all your emotions, everything that you don't want to say, everything that you feel. Whenever you feel frustrated, you might have a person in your family or in your friend circle on whom you will accumulate, or you will put on all the burdens, or say everything to that particular person. Similarly, accumulator is such kind of a setup where everything works on that particular thing. Whatever results which are obtained will be stored in the accumulator. Accumulator also acts as a default input. So accumulator is everywhere. When you speak about microprocessor, when you speak about registers, accumulator and the program counter are 2 registers which are very important. Accumulator is associated with the result formation or storing of data. Program counter is associated with address, and program counter will have the is a register where you will store, which will point to the place where your particular 8085 is currently working. So these 2 registers are very important. Keep that in mind. One is program counter, which speaks program counter, as the name suggests. It keeps a count of the program. It tells you where your microprocessor is currently executing, what is the instruction that is being currently executed. And then you have an accumulator where most of the results are stored. It also acts as a input input operand for many instructions. Okay. So as you can see, addition, one particular operand can be register content, memory content, or an 8-bit number. You can directly give a number, you can give a memory content, you can give a register. Register content and memory content are two things. Okay, so memory is different from a register. Register is something which is there inside your microprocessor, whereas memory is something which is there outside your microprocessor. It interacts with the memory. So you have three options. Usually, always you have three options from where you can get the data, either from a register or from a memory, or you can directly give it. So that is why you have three options here. Then it adds something with the accumulator content. The result is stored in the accumulator. So that basically means the accumulator content is rewritten. So you have an accumulator content to which something is added, and the result is stored in the accumulator itself, which basically means that the accumulator content will change after the addition operation. Similarly, subtraction, accumulator content, subtraction is based on 2's complement subtraction. Native is stored in 2's complement form. So that's 2's complement subtraction, something you should be aware of from the digital classes. Then accumulator content minus, again the same thing. Register content, memory content, or 8-bit number gives you an and the result is again stored in the accumulator. Can be performed on an 8-bit register. Again, increment, it increments by 1. Decrement, it decrements by 1. It can be performed on an 8-bit register, 16-bit register pair, or a memory location. So it can be performed on 8-bit registers, a 16-bit register pairs, or memory. We will see what 16-bit register. Combination of two registers can act as a 16-bit register pair. Okay. And can also be performed on memory location. So it's basically incrementing or decrementing 1. It's basically used in looping statements. You know the looping, you subtract 1, keep on subtracting 1. If you want to loop something for 10 times, you will be using such kind of statement. So this is basically the arithmetic operations which are there in the 8085, addition, subtraction, increment, bar decrement. Logical operations. Okay, it's 10. I will take 5 more minutes and just conclude this particular session. Then we will go on to the quiz part. Okay. So thank you for reminding. So again, logical operations, same thing. On accumulator content, the result is accumulator. So AND or XOR, these are the three kinds of logical operations which are supported. Then there is shifting operations, rotating, shift left or right, where the contents of the registers are shifted. Then you have comparing operations. You can compare register content greater than or less than or equal to accumulator content. Again, most of the points you have accumulator coming into picture. If you look into this, you have your logical operations performed on an accumulator, rotation performed on an accumulator, comparison done on an accumulator, greater than, less than, or equal to, between register content, memory content, and 8-bit number. So then complement, accumulator contents are complemented. So these are, most of these instructions are performed on the register called as accumulator. And you have 4 kinds of logical operations: the usual gates and or an XOR, then rotation operation, comparison operation, and the complement operation. Okay. The next set of operations which we will discuss today, what is your branching operations? Branching operations are operations which change the flow of your program. As I had mentioned, you have if loops, you have for loops. Based on a condition, you move to a particular thing, or you want to skip a particular part of the program in between. So all these things are done in the instructions of your particular microprocessor using something called as branching instances operations. It branches out towards right or left or towards a different point, implies the address changes. Usually when you have a program, it runs sequentially. If you are starting with 8000A, it's 8000H, that's your starting address. Next instruction will be in the 8001H or 8003H, sequentially. If it's a 3-byte instruction, it will be in 8003H, whatever. So you have a sequential way of dealing with that particular thing. But these jump statements will make that particular change, or the program counter value will be changed based on a particular condition. If you have an addition operation, if you have a carry, you have to move to a particular part of the program. If you don't have a carry, you will move to a different part. So that is done using your branching operation, which effectively changes the program counter value. So you have jump statements, you have call, return, and restart. Call is basically moving to a different point. Returning is returning from a particular point. Restarting from a particular point. So all these comes under the branching operations, which are going to be part of your particular instruction set. Okay. And finally, you have machine control operations associated with halting of your particular system, interrupting of your particular system, doing nothing of your system, then again serial communication is also involved in this particular thing. So machine control operations, controlling the machine, controlling how a machine works, is something which is also there with respect to instruction. Using these instruction, you will be able to control the way in which the machine works. So these were the basic concepts of your particular instruction set. Moving along, you have something called as the flag concept, something which you already seen. So that means after any arithmetic operations, after the arithmetic operations being performed in the accumulator, certain number of flags are set. The 5 flags which are associated with your particular 8085 are carry flag, zero flag, sign flag, parity flag, auxiliary carry flag. All these are self-explanatory. Carry flag, if a carry occurs after an addition process out of your 8-bit operation, your carry flag will be set. If there is no carry, carry flag will be 0. It depends upon an operation performed. It depends upon an operation performed with the help of an accumulator. So the accumulator will be the storing the result. Based on the result which has happened previously, the carry flag will be set. That is done based on the result which has happened previously. So if you have another addition operation and the result changes, the carry flag will be reset based on that particular instruction. Then you have zero flag, again based on the arithmetic operations bar logical operations which are performed on your accumulator and the result being stored in the accumulator. Sign flags, again same thing. Parity, again based on the result which are there in accumulator, whether it's even parity or parity. Parity is something which you already seen across your detailed design, associated with your communication. The number of ones, number of zeros, the number of ones will determine whether it's even parity or odd parity. Then auxiliary carry, something associated with 8-bit addition. After the 4-bit addition, if you have a carry, it's called as auxiliary carry. So again, based on the operations, arithmetic bar logical operations which are performed previously, these flags are set. These are additional flag registers which are available in your 8085. Basically, they are set or reset based on these flags are set or reset. Basically, these will be internally will be flip-flops, detailed design flip-flops, JKD, whatever kind of flip-flops that are used. So using these flip-flops, you will be able to set up, in these flip-flops, you will set or reset the contents based on execution of arithmetic and logical operation mostly. Special cases are there, but usually all these flags are affected by arithmetic and logical signs of data condition. So what kind of data has been obtained after an operation will affect the functionality of the flags. Okay, flag it's a general concept. If you have a danger, you flag it. If you have something which has to be done later, you flag it. It's similar to that. Okay. Flag values can change after every operation. So the value is dependent upon the operation which is performed later. You do an addition, get a change in the flag, then you again do an addition. Flag changes based on the latest addition. Okay, addition. So it is something which happens with respect to the operation which was performed at the latest. Okay. Again, this is basically used to change the program signal. So branching statement depends upon these values. So if you have a zero flag set, if you set the zero flag, you branch to a particular location. If not, you branch to a different location. Similarly for sign and parity. So the program sequence is changed based on the values here. There are instructions which can be used for that. So carry flag is set when carry borrow generated out of the bit 7 on your accumulator. Zero flag is set only when all 8 bits result are 0. Sign flag when D7 is result is 1, relevant only for signed addition. S is equal to 1 negative. That is, it is using a 2's complement way of addition. So that's why first bit, the most significant bit being 1 implies it's a negative value, and if that is 1, then this particular flag will be set. Hopefully, these are things which you should be knowing. So flags are registers, 1-bit flip-flops, which are set by reset based on arithmetic and logical operations which are performed using instructions. Okay. Now, that's about the theory of your instruction set. Now we will we will practically move into the instruction set. What are these things which we are trying to understand with respect to the machines? So the first type of instructions which we will be seeing will be your data transfer operations. Now, there are lots of instructions. All these instructions, explanation of all these instructions might not be that fruitful. It will not lead to a fruitful discussion. So I will just mention the key terms and key words associated with data transfer operations. Then we'll move on to the programs and try to understand the programs. That's my idea of teaching this particular assembly language. So there are certain keywords. So whenever you have something called as MOV or MVI, where M and V comes into picture, it is basically signifying move operation. MV അല്ലെങ്കിൽ MOV എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ മൂവ് ആണ്, ഇതിന്റെ എക്സ്പാൻഷൻ മൂവ് ആണ്. This is a data transfer operation from a source to a what is it, from a source to a destination. There will be different kinds of moves. Move will be from a register, move can be from data, but MOV, MVI are examples of instructions which are associated with data movement. When you move something from a particular point to a particular thing, we use move instruction. Now, what is the difference between move and load? LHI, LDA, L. Whenever you have a L keyword coming into picture, it is associated with loading. Loading is basically done from a memory location into your accumulator usually, or into a set of registers. Usually it will be accumulator. Here L, whenever you have an A, it is associated with accumulator. Now you don't have an A, you have different other registers coming into picture. So M stands for movement, L stands for loading. Loading is taking loading, you just consider it the loaders which you see in your what is it, usual construction site. So they will load something into the lorry like load. Usually it is a loading process. So here the loading basically means computer games loading, operating system loading, all these are basically taking the something from the outside world into your particular system. So here we are, outside world is your memory. So when you take something from the memory into your particular microprocessor, it is called as loading operation. So it is signified by LDA, LHI, LHL, all this stuff. Then storing is something which is associated in the reverse process. Loading, opposite is storing. Storing is from the accumulator into a register or into a memory location. So that keyword is ST, ST, S. S is the keyword here. Depending upon the kind of storing operation, depending upon the operands you are using, you have different kinds of storing operations, STA, STA, SSS. So M, L, and S. M for movement, L for loading, S for storing. Then you have exchange operation. It's not that common, but there are instructions which can exchange data between two registers. Again, exchanging between say PC and other things are there. Then storing of program counter and your stack pointer values are there. Then push and pop are associated with stack pointer values. So out and in are associated with IO. So out of this, the most commonly seen instructions are your move, LHI, L and S. These are the common data movement operations. These are exceptional data movement operations. Push and pop is associated with stack pointers, stack operation. Out and in is associated with IO operation. So this is the basic set of data transfer operations. We'll just do. So this is how the movement operations will operate. So RD and RS. R signifies register, D signifies destination, S signifies source. So it is given as RD comma RS star. Then so you will have two register values here, which will be used to move your values across these things. Copies data from the source register RS to destination register D. From RS to RD. That's your data movement. It's a 1 byte instruction. It takes only 1 bytes to store this particular data. Okay. So it is associated with registers. Only thing that is here is registers. MVI register is your receiver end. Then you have your data given as your 8-bit instruction. This is a 2 byte instruction. That means it takes 2 memory locations to store this particular information. Okay. So loads 8 bits of second byte into the register file. So this is how the difference between move. All these involves registers. MVI has data part as well. Out 8-bit port address, 2 byte instruction. Out is and copies the contents of accumulated to the output port. In 2 byte instruction accepts data from the input port specified in the second byte. So that's the idea with respect to your basic data transfer operations. Then Okay, so again, further explanation, one place to another, copies the contents from RS to RD, copies the contents of RS, then to memory location pointed by HR. So this is a special kind of instruction. I don't think this is that significant, but there are certain instructions which are special about it. So you have registers getting involved, but there is also some special instruction called as move M, RS, copies source register to memory location pointed by HR. So it's something which is special. That means you will have the pointing, the address to which the data to be written inside your HL register. This instruction copies the content of memory location pointed by HL to the register RD. So, so again, contents inside memory location pointed by HL be moved. These are but very uncommon instructions. The common instruction which is going to be used is move this one. These are special instructions where the HL register gets involved both as a source and as an component. Loading LHI, load register pair immediate, loading 16-bit register in register pair. So you have pairs of registers. You have HL, BD, and the combination of two registers acting as pairs. So you can copy the contents into register pairs, 16-bit values. Okay. So that is your LHI instruction, load register pair immediate. So you give the data will be loaded into the register pairs. Okay. So that's the idea here. Data transfer move is there, LDAX, load accumulator indirect. It's a way of loading the accumulator in indirect way, in the sense the address will be in a register. From the register, you will get an address. From that address, you will get the store again, the reverse of it. Move immediate, data will be moved into the memory location. Data is given. So these are examples of load instructions. Register pairs, LHI H, comma. So this gives you an idea about how this instruction works. So the instruction is a 3-byte instruction, and here what happens is LHI H, comma 2034H. Now 2304H is a memory address. 2304H is a memory address, and the content of this particular, the value is not taken. The content of this particular 2004H, I mean the value here 20334, since it's immediate, this value is taken. This value is stored in HL pair so that it can act as a memory pointer. So you already have seen a move instruction which uses HL pair. HL pair content is acting as a memory pointer. So here, in order to move the value of this particular thing into your H, we will be using LHI instruction. So 16-bit value which is signified here, the H value which is signified here, will be loaded into the HL pair. So that is how it works with respect to your data transfer operation when it happens with LHI. So LHI, again, it's a 3-byte instruction. Second byte is loaded into the register C. Third byte is loaded into the higher register. So this is how the LHI works. RP. RP is your register pair, is used to represent it. Then it can also be used to value. So these are basically having different kinds of ways in which you can use the LHI instruction. So immediate value will be loaded into the HL pair, or since each of these registers are 8-bit, if you want to store 16-bit, you will have to use pairs. Okay. So again, the explanation is here. So the machine code is given here. So, so consider that you have an instruction called as LHI H, 2050H. This is your instruction. What is the corresponding machine code? The LHI H is converted into a machine code called as 21. Okay, which gives you an information regarding what this particular instruction is. Along with it, you have 2050. Now 2050 has also to be stored. So 2050 will also be converted into the corresponding machine codes, that is your 50 and 20. 50 is your L register, 20 is in your H register. So after the execution of this particular instruction, the HL pair will have the components 50 and 20. So L register will have 50H and H register will have 20H. Okay. Similarly, if you have using an MVI instruction, it takes only 8-bit values. It will not take 16-bit values. It will take only 8-bit values, since it's a 2-byte instruction. So it will have MVIH coded as 26, and your 20H, that is your address data value will be loaded into your H. So these are two ways of looking into it. LHI can load register pairs, so H and L. Instead of using these 4-byte instruction, you will be able to do it using a single instruction, that is LHI. Otherwise, you will have to use 2 instructions. Same thing can be done using 2 instructions, but LHI makes it more simpler. Since you can use a single instruction, a 3-byte instruction. Here it will be 4 bytes. Here it will be 3 bytes, which will save the operation. So this is how your data transfer operations work. This is how your data movement operations work. Okay, so you have other LDA. I think the accumulator, LDA BD. This is an accumulator indirect. It's a 1-byte instruction. It copies the data byte from the memory location into the accumulator. So it's basically the memory location pointed by the register. So immediate you had I, whenever you have I, you will produce the data and the data will be taken in. If you don't have an I, you can be anything. So here, in the case of this particular LDA-H, what is being done is H load accumulator, LDA, A here stands for accumulator, and that's here signifies that the value has to be passed it. So here it is what is being done is copies the data byte from the memory location which is pointed by B or D. So if it's B, B points to a memory location. The B, that particular memory location will be, it will be the pairs, because memory location requires 16 bits. The point again, memory location is 16-bit, address, the address is 16-bit, whereas your data is 8-bit. So when you speak about B, in order to get an address, you require 16-bit. So B will not work as a single entity. It will be BC or D. If it's D, it will be D. BC is a pair of registers, D is a pair of registers, HL is a pair of registers. So you have register pairs which act as your memory addresses. Since only program counter is 16-bit, stack pointer is 16-bit, the others combine together to form the 16-bit addresses. Okay. Then the most commonly used load operation is your load accumulator. It's a 3-byte instruction. It copies the data byte from the memory location specified by the 16-bit address. So you need to understand the difference between I, X, and A. Now, in the case of I, the data which is given, the immediate data which is given, goes into these HL registers. In the case of X, LDA-H, the BE, the registers BC are having a memory address, and the contents of that particular memory address, BC has 2050, the contents of this particular memory address are copied into accumulator. Now LDA 16-bit, instead of giving a register, you can directly give a memory address. So in the case of LDA 16-bit, it's a 3-byte instruction. You give the address. From that particular address, whatever data value is there, which will be an 8-bit value, will be taken into your accumulator. You need to understand that whenever you have a data transfer, the register sizes should be same. If you are taking a 16-bit value, it has to be loaded into 2 registers. If you are taking an 8-bit value, it is going to be loaded in an 8-bit register. These things are to be understood when you are trying to understand the data transfer operations. So the LDA copies the data from a given 16-bit address to the accumulator. So this is an example of it. 3000H, LDA 3000H. The content of memory location 3000H is copied into the accumulator. Accumulator indirect, the contents of the receiving register pair point to a memory location. This instruction copies the contents of that memory location into the accumulator. LDA-HB means that B, go back, BC is having a particular content, memory location, and that memory location will have an 8-bit content which will be loaded into your particular accumulator. So that's the idea. So as you can see, this diagram gives you a better explanation. So LHI B, 2050H. What happens here? Now 2050 is a memory which has F7 as its contents. Each of these memory addresses are having 8-bit values. So 2050 has an 8-bit value which is represented by hexa. F means hexa. So F7 is the content which is there in 2050. Now, when you give LXI B comma 2050, which is basically a 3-byte instruction, you're telling that it's a load. L signifies load. H signifies that it is not a single byte instruction. It's a pair. I mean, register pair, which we are speaking about. I terms that it's an immediate value. So this is how the coding works. So L stands for load operation, H stands for register pair, and I stands for immediate data. Now, what is done? Loading. That means you are taking something from the outside world into your particular inside world. That is your register world. So what happens here is your B register, your B register, which is signified here. So this is the combination. You have accumulator and the flags, your B and C. This will never combine. Accumulator will affect the flags. Now, B and C is a register pair, D and E is a register pair, H and L is another set of registers. These are the register pairs which are there inside your 8085. Now, when you give LXI B2050, so 50 and 20, so 2050 has F7 content. Okay. Now, what happens is your B register and the combination of C will have the contents 2050. So the 2050 instruction will be loaded into your B register. So that is what happens. And now F7 is there. Now, once this is done, if you do an LDH, now this is load accumulator with a register pair B. So this is different. This is load register pair with immediate value. So the immediate value is the data that is given. That will be loaded into a B. This is load accumulator, A stands for accumulator, with again register pair is being used. So loading is to be performed into your accumulator. So the accumulator will have the contents of B. B means B is your register pair. So the contents of the register pair 2050, that is your F7. F7 is loaded into your accumulator. Is it clear? So here LDAX basically means that your register pair B050 is being used to you first load your B with your this particular address. From that particular thing, it is loaded into this. Instead of this whole setup of 2 instructions, you can use a much simpler instruction called as LDA 2050, which does the same thing, where 2050 address, from that F7 is. But there are different times when you require both these kinds of instructions. So both this and this does the same job. This does it straightforward. This will be changing the address and using that address to make the corresponding change. So you can keep on changing the address followed by this particular instruction to perform this particular operation. Instead of that, if you want to give it as an immediate value, address value, you can give LDA 2050H, which basically means that 2050 data, the data which is there in 2050 will be loaded into the accumulator. Is it clear? It is a little bit confusing. You need to understand the difference between data and address. Also, you need to understand the coding method being used. L represents loading. X represents registers. Immediate means the data is specified there itself. So the operation will be performed on that. Whereas when you have LHI, I coming into picture, the data is directly copied. Whereas when you have some things like LDA, loading of an accumulator with the memory content of 2050. Both these are doing the same operations. Okay. So try to understand this. We'll do the programs and then try to have a more clearer picture of it. If anybody has any doubts, you can ask now. Okay, so moving along, then you have load HL direct LDA. This instruction loads the contents of the distributed memory into HL pair. Again, this is where immediate is not there, so the address will have some data contents. That content will be loaded into your HL. Contents of the distributed memory location into the HL pair. Contents of the memory location specified by distributed address. Operand. So LDHL 3000 that basically means that the operand are stored in register L and contents of the next memory location by incrementing the operand are stored in H. So point to be understood here is that there are lots of things which are happening here. When you have something like this, 3000H is having a particular data, and that data will be stored into your L register. And then 3001H is having a different data that will be stored into your H register. Okay, so you have 16-bit address into the register and contents of the next memory. So 3000H data will be going into your L, and 3001H will be going into your H register. Okay, so that's this is a special kind of instruction which is called as load H and L register direct. Direct, D is the keyword here. D represents direct. So you're directly giving the registered value. It is not related to something else. Okay, so that is this. Then again, move instruction. The reverse. I'm not going to explain the store operation. It is a reverse of load operation. From the accumulator, you have different ways similar to your load. LDIX, same X means what is it? Pairs, but the operation is in the reverse direction. From your accumulator into your memory locations or registers. That is how your store operation works. Then move operation is from register to memory. That is something which you already seen. Then store is from accumulator into your particular memory. STA 3000H. Accumulator contents will be copied into 3000H. Store accumulator indirect. The contents of the accumulator copied to memory location specified by the operand register pair. So contents of the accumulator are not altered. So the contents will be stored into the address location pointed by the register pair. Okay, B means BC is the register pair. So H implies you are speaking about register pair, and it's an indirect operation. So the accumulator content will be stored into the address pointed by the BC register pair. HL direct, the contents of the register L stored in the memory location specified 16-bit address, and contents of the H register are stored in the memory location by incrementing the point. So it's the reverse of your this thing. So 3000 accumulator content, we byte instruction, contents of H are not altered, so HL remains the same. Okay. So that is with respect to. So there is some issue in joining now. Okay. Anyway, so that is with respect to your usual store and load instruction. Now we have exchange instruction. Exchanging between your register pair is done using your exchange instruction. Then it can also operate in stack values, HL pair with top of stack. This we'll explain later, but there are certain special instructions which are used to implement it. Exchange is between the register pairs H and L with D and D. So HL pair contents can move into your D pairs. So you can exchange the data between two register contents. HTHL, HL with the top of stack. So top of the stack is having a contents of the L pair are exchanged in the stack location, pointed out the contents of the stack pointer register. So stack pointer usually has register values. The contents of the H register are exchanged with the next location. So you have L and H. Stack pointer will point to a particular location. So the HL pair contents are stored into the top of the stack, and the next address in the stack is basically a memory where you will fill up the data. The top of the stack will have a value which will be replaced by the contents of your H, and then the below content will be replaced by the contents of the L. Again, SPHL is the reverse of your this thing. Then you have PCHL. This is important because until now all the store and load instructions are either starting with L or with S. The only instruction which has a copying nature and which doesn't have S and L coming into picture is a P instruction, PCHL. This instruction copies the HL register to PC pair. PC is a program counter which has memory addresses which are being executed currently. Now, this instruction, what happens is the HL register pair or the contents of your HL register are copied into your program counter register. So this is a special instruction which is used for changing the value of your program counter. And finally, you have instructions associated with push. Push is your instructions associated with the stack. You can push register values. You can push PSW, that is a program status word, which is basically speaking about your flags and your accumulator. Then you can pop the values from the stack. Push and pop are associated with stack. This again comes under your data transfer instructions. So here you have an explanation of how push and pop works, which we'll take in the next class. So push and pop and your arithmetic operations we will take in the next class. So I have given you a brief introduction into the different kinds of instructions which are used inside your 8085. It's not easy to comprehend at the first level or to understand at the first level. You need to go through it and you need to write programs and then try to understand it. So first, from the next class, once we finish off the loading instructions, the data transfer instructions and arithmetic instructions, we move to a program using a simulator and see how these things are really working inside your particular simulator. And the simulator that is going to be used will be SIM 8085. You can go through it. So let me just share the screen to see how it looks like. Is it visible?
No, sir.
No or yes? No. Wait.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is a very simple simulator. It's called a SIM 8085. As you can see, this presents you with whatever is happening inside your microprocessor. So you have a window where you will be writing your assembly language program. You have the registers which are being shown, your accumulator and your PSW. So this is your accumulator. This is your program status word, which is where you have your flags. Then you have your BC, DE, HL, and SP program counter. All the registers which are associated with your particular 8085. Then you have flags being shown separately. The 5 flags which are associated with this thing. Then you have all the memory addresses being shown here. You see the way in which it is arranged. It's quite logical. So you have the value starting from 0, 0 to into it. So this is your memory location. Each is 8-bit. So the data here is 8-bit. So this is your memory address. So it's from 000 to. So you move along, you get until the last address in this particular setup is 10FF. So this is 10, this is your 10F, and the last F comes from here. So 10F0, 10F1 is this location. It's a matrix form, so you can logically analyze it. So this is how the memory is shown here. Then you have an assembler output being shown here. So each of these instructions will be converted into what will be written here. We'll see how the instructions are converted into different kinds of coding schemes. So this is a 3-byte instruction. So this will have a different way of looking into it. We'll see all these things and see how simple programs work. It is not easy to write programs here. We'll see how it works. So let's go through it if you get time and work on this in the next classes. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's start with understanding your machines. So the whole idea is to understand your machines. We had gone through the basics of addressing modes, instruction classification, the different kinds of operations which are associated with it. I also introduced a certain simulator which you can use as part of your particular this thing. Okay, so we have started with the instruction set. We have focused our attention on data transfer operations, the move immediate instructions, load and store instructions, exchange instructions, again transfer of instructions, certain special instructions like SPHL, push, pop, out, and in. All these are instructions associated with data transfer. Again, instruction set is part of of your syllabus as far as I am concerned, and you need to understand the instructions. So you need to have an idea about each of these instructions. If I am not wrong, you have around 74 instructions and around 256 different ways in which these instructions can be used. So the language consists of say since the alphabets are English alphabets undu. Anybody? Argorille. ABCD Argorille. Hello? Nobody who knows the number of alphabets in English language?
26.
Okay, at least two knows what English language is. Anyway, so similar to that, you have around 74 kinds of instructions in your 8085, and you can combine that with respect to the operands. So it operates on operands, and different updates modes are there. Accordingly, expanded version will be, I think, around 258 or 264. So this is the language of your 8085. We are trying to understand the language of your 8085. So these are the first set of instructions which concerns data transfer. We have already seen all these stuff, how these things are used as part of your particular instructions. Examples have been done. Load instruction, store instruction, I have explained all these things. And moving along, exchange and HTL, different instructions where you are speaking about two registers, special instructions. You can go through it and understand that. There is SPHL and PCHL. Both these are special instructions which because they are basically dealing with stack pointers or address locations. So you have address and data. These instructions deal with address kind of content, and they basically change the stack pointer, and PCHL changes the PC. Now the important point to be noted here, even though this instruction is kind of a load instruction which loads the HL register to the PC, since it changes the PC, changing of a PC is the is something which is associated with branching instruction. So this is considered to be a branching instruction. There are certain, the conflict between PCHL, whether it's a data transfer or a branching instruction, but when it comes to the way it operates, it works like a data transfer operation, but the result of it is a branching instruction or movement of your, change of your program counter. So it can also be, it is usually also considered as a branching instruction. So that's another, it's a very common instruction which is used in gate, which is usually asked in gate. The special instructions, the unorthodox instructions, not the usual instructions, are instructions which are commonly seen in gate papers. SPHL, PCHL are something which is usually seen in gate papers. So just have a thought of it. SPHL, SP is your stack pointer. PCHL, PC is your program counter. So it is associated with program counter. SPHL is associated with stack pointer. HL is a register. HL is a register here as well. It is a loading register. So the value of HL goes into PC. Here the value of HL goes into SP. So H provides higher order address, whereas L provides lower order address. Because L stands for low and H stands for high. It is easy to remember this. So higher order address is provided by H, and lower order address is provided by L. SP is a 16-bit register. Remember that it's a 16-bit register. PC is also a 16-bit register because it points to memory locations. Memory consists of 16. In your this thing, many had written 16 when you were asked the addressing capability of your 8088. It's not 16. It is 2 raised to 16. That means I think it's 64K. So that it was asked in bytes, so it has to be 64 kilobytes. That's the number of mental address locations that your 8085 is capable to address. Okay. So that is with respect to your data transfer. So moving along, then you had pop and push instructions. Pop and push instructions are associated with your stack pointer, pushing of values into your pop. Pop is basically taking off values from the stack, and pushing is something you push into the stack. Stack is associated with storing data contents, storing memory addresses with respect to interrupts. When something, when a program gets interrupted, use your push and pop to put things into stack. Stack is where you store things. Okay, we already introduced the concept of stack in computer organization, if I am not wrong. So you should have an idea about what stack is. It is quite similar to a stack that you use in your house, where you put things so that it can be retrieved later. So you have push operation to push things onto the stack. You have pop operation to pop things out of the stack. So pop RP is basically a popping operation where retrieve register pair from the stack. So it's a 1 byte instruction. The size of the instruction is usually given in terms of bytes. 1 byte, 2 byte, 3 byte instructions are there. It's a 1 byte instruction. It retrieves register pair from the stack. So it takes a register pair from the stack. From the stack, it will retrieve a register pair and then puts it across RP. Then pop B, it copies the contents of the top 2 memory locations of the stack into the specified register pair. Again, it copies the contents of two memory locations. Okay, and it moves it into the register pair. Then contents of the memory location indicated. So the point here is most of these instructions are associated with not data. It is associated with memory address. That is because stack is usually associated with saving of memory addresses. So you can see that all these are speaking about register pairs. RP implies register pair. So pop B implies contents of 2 memory location of the stack into the specified register pair. So it is always speaking about 2 memory locations. That's something which you need to understand. Indicated by the stack pointer are copied in the lower address, and then stack pointer register is incremented by 1, and then it is copied. The contents of the memory location indicated by the stack pointer register are copied into the lower register, and then the stack pointer register is incremented by 1. So it copies, then increments your stack pointer register by this. Okay. So again, it can, this is the generic way in which you do it. So it basically retrieves the register pair from the stack. So it is basically speaking about 16-bit instruction. The data, the copying is done for 16-bit instruction. So again, PSW can also be copied. So this is basically a pop instruction. This is your memory. This is your stack pointer, which is 2097. And inside your 2097 stack pointer, you have 2 values, FT, F2, and 42. So once you do your pop operation, this is a push and pop. Push is pushing the value into. I missed the push operation. Push is putting the value into the stack. Pop is taking the value into the same thing. There's no difference. Pop basically takes the value into the registers. Push basically pushes the value into the stack. So the 2 things which are involved, one is stack, the other one is register pair. So in pushing from the register pair into the stack, popping from the stack into the register pair. So it both operates on RP, register pair. So as you can see, this is the push operation. So this is your registers A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I mean H and L. So H and L has 40. H has a value of 42. Then 52, 42, and 52. Now when you do the push operation, these HL values, push H, consider that you have done a push H operation. Now this particular values, that means 42 and F2, will go into the stack pointer. I mean the addresses which are pointed by stack pointer. F2 is pushed lower order, the L value is pushed into F2 and it is incremented. Then the 42 is pushed into 2098. Now when you pop it out, again 2097, which is the current stack pointer, will be will be taken into F2, I mean the L register. Then 42, which is the second value inside your stack, will be popped into your H register. So you have the same value of 42 and F2. Stack pointer currently, in this case, you have decremented the stack. This is a decrementing stack. I'm not going to the further details of it. So when you push things, the values are decremented. So it was 2099. After the pushing operation, it is 2097. It's a decrementing stack. So you have a top address. You keep on decrementing the stack address as your values are pushed in. And when you pop, your stack is incremented. So now you have 2099. Okay. So when you push, the address value decrements. When you pop, the address value increments. It's a reverse direction. Just understand that it's a reverse direction. So this is with respect to your push and pop. Okay, so this is basically the expansion of what I have told. The stack pointer registers here, contents of the lower order registry copy to that location. So these are basically the push and pop the expansion of what happens when you use PSW. All these things are given here. You can go through and try to understand. But push and pop in generic way is associated with stack pointers and usually deals with 16 bit of data. In and out we have already seen. In is basically to input data from a particular peripheral, and out is to basically write something into your peripheral. So this is basically this. So that's about your data transfer operations or data transfer instructions: move, mediate, load, store, push, pop, then special instructions like SPHL and PCHL. PC based instruction is not part of your data transfer, but can sometimes be considered in that particular aspect as well. And then finally you have your push and pop instructions, and then in and out instructions. So these are the basic instructions which are associated with move. Now if you look into a program, if you take a assembly language program, so consider that it consists of 20 lines of assembly language program. See, if you look into a C program, you can see loops, you can see integers, you can see equal to operations and all. But if you are looking into an assembly language program written for 8085, what you will mostly see out of the 20 lines of program, possibly more than 10 and approximately around 15 instructions will be data transfer operations. So in order to understand a program, in order to know how a program works, or in order to write an assembly language program, the understanding of data transfer operations is very significant. And the most commonly used data transfer instructions are move instructions, the store instructions, and the load instructions. Okay, move, store, and load are the most commonly used instructions with respect to any particular program. Push and pop are rarely used because it is associated with stack pointers. General programs doesn't have push and pop, but when it goes into complicated real life programs, it requires push and pop. But in general, if you look into any kind of a program that you're going to see, it will be mainly associated, or it will have mainly your data transfer operations, the data movement operations, or the move instructions, the load instructions, and your store instructions. So you need to have a good grip on how these things work. Okay, so you go back, try to read through these instructions. Each instructions are expanded and given out in the, I think, in the appendix page. You have a space where you have the instructions and expansions. So once you go through it, just at least have an idea about what these instructions are. Okay. Now the next set of instructions are your arithmetic operations. So as I told you, arithmetic operations basically speaks about I would say add instructions, sub instructions, DAD instructions, increment and decrement instructions, and DAA instructions. So these are DAD and DAA are basically used to have a BCD addition and something oriented to conversion from the 16-bit, 16 hexa into your I would say BCD value. So, but the rest are add, sub, and increment, decrement are the commonly seen instructions. Okay, so as you can see, this is how the instructions work. So the BCD number, I think DAD is used for BCD addition. So this is how the DAD works. When you already know what BCD addition is. So I do not specify about BCD because you needed to add sits along with your number in order for the operation to be performed. So it's over 9, you will have to add sits. That process is something which you have to go back and understand. So that is assisted by the usage of these kind of instructions. Okay. Now add. So these are your usual add instructions: add, sub, and increment. This is the commonly used instructions. Whenever you have an I, it implies that it's an immediate value or the data is given along with the instruction. Okay, so you have the data signified along with the instruction whenever you have a I coming into picture. Sub I, again, same thing happens. Okay. Again, how does it operate upon? So add operand is register, 1 byte instruction. So contents of register art. So again, accumulator plays a key role here. So one of the operand is an accumulator. The result is also stored inside the accumulator. We'll see a particular example here. This is how your accumulator is being used here. One of the operands, if A plus B is to be done, if you want to do A plus B, one of the operands will be stored inside your accumulator and one will be given as part of this particular thing as in a register. Now it will add the register content with the accumulator content and the result will be stored inside your register. So ADI means instead of register you have an immediate data being specified. This, since you have an immediate 8-bit data, this becomes a 2-byte instruction. Okay. Sub R implies this is a 1-byte instruction. Okay. Similarly for the accumulator minus, it happens accumulator content will be subtracted from this. SUI is something where you have 8-bit data. So this is your increment. When you give a register value here, increases the contents of register by 1. Decrement decreases the register by 1. All flags except the CY are affected. We have already seen which are the flags which are getting affected in your arithmetic operations. 1 second. All the flags are usually affected by arithmetic operations. All the flags which are there are affected by arithmetic operations. It's a common thing. Okay. Now, then you have your increment register pair. You use INX, you can increment a register pair. DCH, you can decrement a register pair. Then you can also use memory as part of your operand. Instead of using a register, you can use memory. Again, you can go through and understand the difference. It's only that instead of using your operand instead of register, it is a memory. It adds M to N, stores the result in A. Again, the way in which it works will be the same. But again, the memory location is specified the contents of HL register. So when you speak about memory, the location is specified by HL register. Subtract memory, again, you can have the memory operation which is going to be used. Then INRM. This is basically operating on all these, uses HL register as the memory location. So HL will have the memory which will be HL will point the memory where you want to do the operation. So from that particular memory, your things will be stored. So the memory address has to be loaded in the HL before this particular operation is performed. Add M implies that you cannot give the memory address directly here. What is going to be given will be add M will be the statement, and it will take the memory address from the HL register pair. Okay, so just have a grip of how things are working. You have register pairs, you have registers, you have flags, you have memory locations, you have data values. We are trying to manipulate all these stuff using instructions. You have data transfer operations, you have arithmetic operations. Data transfer operations speaks about data movement operations, storing operations, loading operation, and certain special operations like push, pop, in and out. Whereas when it comes to arithmetic operation, it mainly deals with addition, subtraction, increment, and decrements. Okay. So, the DAA stands for decimal adjust accumulator, where the accumulator value is adjusted with respect to BCD number. So if the value is above 15, it will be adjusted according to the requirement of a BCD number. Then DAD is add register pair to HL. So DAD is basically using a 16-bit addition. You can add a register pair to H and L register. So you are using a 16-bit addition in the case of your DAD. ACE, add immediate to accumulator with carry. So this is again a constant addition process where ACI, the point is carry flag is getting involved. So add immediate, the data will be added to the accumulator with carry flag. Okay. Now ADC, add register to accumulator with carry. So you will have a register which is being used to which the accumulator will be added, and the carry flag will also be added along with it. Subtract, source, and borrow from the accumulator. Again, the borrow getting involved. When B is involved, the borrow is getting involved. When B is involved, the borrow is getting involved. So this is basically used when you want to do repeated addition. This is basically used when you need to do repeated subtraction. You don't have a multiply command. You don't have a division command. So addition is usually done at the programming level. I mean, multiplication is usually done at the programming level using repetitive addition. So that is where you will be using these kind of carry statements. You're keeping on adding certain numbers depending upon requirement. So that's the idea. That's the usage of this kind of arithmetic instructions. Okay. So I will end with the logical operations. Then we'll do a small program and stop today's session. So logical operations, similarly, you have AND, XOR, OR operations, compare operations, rotate operations, and then setting of a flag, complement operations. Okay, so and XOR and OR will affect all the flags. That is sign flag, zero flag, and parity flag. CMP and CPI, which is basically the comparison operation, which is greater, which is less, which is equal to, which will be affecting all flags. Now, rotation operation, that is your RLC, RAL, all these are rotation. That means the data value will be rotated, will be affecting only the carry flag. STC and CMC we will see. It's basically setting the carry flag and complementing the carry flag. Okay. CMA is a complementing of accumulator, which will not affect any flag. So all the rotation and your carry flag values will affect only the carry flag. CMP compare operations will affect all the flags, whereas your AND, XOR, and OR operations will only affect the sign, set, zero, and parity flags. Okay. So this is again the expansion of each of these operations. So ANA and logically and the contents of a register, ANI immediate data or register and the accumulator, or the immediate data, XOR contents of a register and the accumulator, XRI data and the accumulator. Everything again will be performed on them. Implicitly assume the accumulator is one of the operands. So whenever you have any arithmetic operations or logical operations, one particular operand add cheyanengil allengil and or cheyanengil you need two operands, and a comma b allengil add a comma b adana vendathu. പക്ഷേ a എന്ന് പറയുന്ന സാധനം നമുക്ക് പറയേണ്ട കാര്യമില്ല. It is always the accumulator. So on all arithmetic and logical operations, one particular operand is always the accumulator. So that's the significance of accumulator, and the result is stored in the accumulator, which implies that the accumulator is written over. നിങ്ങൾ ആദ്യം ഒരു ഓപ്പറൻഡ് കൊടുത്തു, ആ ഓപ്പറൻഡിന്റെ പുറത്ത് ഈ സമയം ഓപ്പറേഷൻസ് നടത്തി കഴിഞ്ഞ് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ അക്യുമുലേറ്ററിന്റെ വാല്യൂ മാറിപ്പോവും. ഇറ്റ് വിൽ ബി ക്ലിയർ ടു ദ ന്യൂ വാല്യൂ വിച്ച് വിൽ ബി ദ റിസൾട്ട് ഓഫ് ദ ഓപ്പറേഷൻ. ഓക്കെ. So XOR is explosive OR. I'm not expanding on it. And NI, so the flags which are getting affected, all these are being stored here. Again, you can expand it. XRI complement accumulator. The accumulator value will be complemented. This is how the operations are performed. A, B. When you give A and A, B, B is one register. The other one will be accumulator, and the operations will perform, and result will be stored inside your accumulator. Sorry. Now examples or chamber, what will be the result, the effect of the flags. This is something which you have done. Or is basically the value is 1101. This is logical OR. Okay, 0 and 1, 0 0 0 1 1 1 goes like that. And your flag status here will be sign flag, since the D7 value is 1, sign flag will be 1. 0 flag, this is not zero content, so it will be equal to 0. Carry, there is no carry, so it will be 0. So CMA, the complement of the operation will happen. XOR, again, the operation of XOR will perform, and the corresponding flags will be right. So this is something which is associated with digital, should be able to understand. Only difference here is B will be the register content, A will be the other operand on which it works. Okay. Now logical operations, you have rotate accumulator. You need to, if you want to rotate the value in your accumulator, you can rotate it directly to left or right, through carry or without carry. Through carry means rotation will be performed through the carry flag. Okay. So this is an example of your RLC operation. So rotation towards left. So D7 value will go to D0. D0 go to D1, D1 go to D2, the usual way of doing it. So before the instruction, this is the value. After the RLC is performed with 55H with carry set. So this is through carry, and accumulator contents will be changed according to the carry getting affected. So you have the accumulator value going into this particular point as well as into this particular. So this is basically the carry flag is getting involved, but the carry flag will be having the value of D7. So this is the way in which your RLC work. RIL, again, rotate left carry. This is rotate the carry left itself, but using the accumulator. As you can see, the difference here is, here D7, the left and right remains the same. This is left, so the movement is towards the left hand side, and Okay. RLC is left hand side, so the movement is towards the left side. This is the direction of operation. But as you can see, the D7 moves into the carry flag and also moves into the D0. So that is your RLC. When you have RAL, or this is carry, C stands for carry, and when you have RAL where the carry is not there, what happens is this moves into the carry flag, and whatever there is which is there in the carry flag will move into the D0. Okay, so the direction remains the left itself. So the contents of D7 moves into the carry flag, and the contents of the carry flag will move into D0. So this is how RIL works. This is the difference of RLC and RIL. Both affects the carry flag. One-time effect, and the value is not moved into the. The value which is there in the carry flag is lost. Whereas in the other case here, carry flag is moved into your D7 and goes through like this proportion. So similarly for your RRC, the left and right remains the same. Only difference is in the direction of movement. Then other special instructions are to RRC right operation is being mentioned here. The same thing. The only thing is the direction will be in the right. CMC stands for complement the carry flag. STC stands for set the carry flag. Then you have compare instructions. It basically compares either the register or the memory with the accumulator, and it is basically a subtraction operation. Based on the result, carry flag, zero flag will be affected. Okay, modified. However, all remaining flags are affected according to the result of the result. The point here is the accumulator. Compare the register with the accumulator. It compares the data byte and the register to memory with the contents of the accumulator. Okay, when memory is an operand, its address is specified. No contents are modified. However, so after this particular operation, the result is not shown in the accumulator. The result is not there. It just does the operation, and the result will affect your flags. Okay, so no contents are modified. However, all the remaining flags are affected according to the result of subtraction. No contents are, however, all remaining flags are affected due to the. So this is with respect to 8-bit immediate data. This is with respect to register or memory. Again, when you speak M as a operand, memory, the memory content, the address will be from the HL register. So HL acts as a memory pointer. So this is with respect to compare operations. So I will stop with this. Now we will do a small program to understand. So we have given, you have got a small idea about what data transfer operations are, what arithmetic operations are, and what your logical operations are. The rest remaining are your branching operations and your machine control operations, right? Branching operations and then machine control operations, which are not that commonly used as part of your program. So when you move into assembly language programming, you need an algorithm, flowchart, and program so that it helps others to understand it. Now today we will do a small program. So what I want you to do is, all of you can take the site called as SIM 8085. If you can go to the site called as SIM 8085. So I'll stop presenting. Many has replied that they know English. 26, fine. So all of you please go to the site titled as SIM 8085. Have you gone through that particular site? Can you type an yes for the chat? Any issues, you can call it sim8085.com. I can show that particular site. Okay, are you able to see this particular site? Okay, so what I want you to understand is, I have spoken a lot of theory. You might not be able to comprehend most of it, but at least you have an idea about what instructions are, what flags are, what your program counter is and all. So this is what this particular site gives you the whole idea about how your particular instructions will look like. What are the instructions, how the coding is being done, everything is evident from this particular site. So what we are trying to do here is we are trying to understand a very basic simple code. Okay. If you look into the particular site or simulator, it's a very simple simulator. In the left hand side, you are able to see the registers. So your 8085 consists of an accumulator. Accumulator is an 8-bit register. Then the program status word. Program status word gives you information with respect to the program. What is the status of the program? Which basically consists of your flags. Okay, so it has an orientation to the flags. So if you can see, the flags are specially mentioned at the bottom here. You have the flags: zero flag, sign flag, parity flag, carry flag, and auxiliary carry flag. So you have 5 flags, and this is what is represented in 8-bit format in the PSW. So this is accumulator and then program counter. Then you have B and C, which are the registers. Each are 8-bit. Combinedly, they are called as register pairs. So this becomes 16-bit. DE, HL, SP, which is the stack pointer, which we are not using. So it has a high value. So as you can see, the default value gives an indication of how this works. Okay. So the default value here for a stack pointer is FFFH, which basically means when you push something into the stack pointer will be decremented. Because if you are giving a maximum value, you're going to use it, it will be decremented. It has this particular high value because you are using a 16-bit memory and you are able to have the maximum value of 16 bits to represent your stack pointer. Am I clear? Are you able to understand something about it? So this is your way in which your simulator looks like. So you have your registers at the left hand side, your flags again at the left hand side. Then another important thing that you need to understand to have an idea about how this. There are n number of simulators which are there for 8085. I just selected one. That's it. You can have more number of you can take any other simulators which you feel more comfortable. Feel that this is okay. So that is why I have selected it. Now you have you have a memory of 16 bits starting from 0000 to FFF. That is the memory of your particular 8085 microprocessor. So that is represented in this particular format here. So this particular memory location is 1000. So you have 4, it is represented hexa. So the maximum value that you can use is FFFF. So this is basically giving different ranges of your memory. So if you start with 0, it starts with 0, 0, 0, A to 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 to 0, 0, F, and then 0, 0 to 0, 1 to F. So this is basically a row column combination of 16 possible positions, and you continue this till you can get 10 F 0 to 10 FF. Now the next one will be 110. So all the addresses which are there, which can be addressed, can be obtained from this particular thing. I think we also have a method of addressing. I don't know if this works. Okay. So if you type it 2050, they will show you where 2050 is and what is the value of it. Again, if you want to go to 3000. So this is 300. So that particular field will come into picture. Again, if you want to go to F. So this is where your FFF is situated. This is the location of it. This is the location. Okay. Clear? This is how your your 8085 simulator works. I'm trying to finish it as soon as possible so that the next class can. Who is the next teacher? Okay, fine. So okay, so this is how your simulator looks like. So try to get a dip of how things are looking like. Now what we are trying to do is we are trying to execute a very simple program, which is basically addition of 2 numbers. Okay, now we want to add 2 and 4. So every particular entity number that is represented in 8085 generally in any microprocessor will be represented hexadecimal. So that is why we are using H. So this is a space where you write the program. Now, so we want to add two numbers. We want to add 4 and 2. We want to see the result. Now the result are not displayed. You don't have any LCD screens. You don't have anything. The result will be usually stored inside an accumulator. So as you can see, first thing that you need to, I will stop this particular program. Okay, so you have buttons which are quite self-explanatory. There's nothing much in it, and the default load, it has to be loaded. If you look into the program counter, now it's 805. That is because we have implemented a 5-byte code. So the default level, the program is going to be loaded into 8000. Now here. Okay. So this is your compilation or assembling method. So once you click on this particular code, you can write this particular code in your particular simulator and see how it works. You write this particular code, then compile it. When you assemble and load the program, the output will be shown here. That basically means each of these particular instructions, this is an assembler output, each of these particular instruction has been converted into this coded format. Okay, so as you can see, this MVI A, 2H has been converted to 3E, 2. I mean 3E2. Each are hexadecimal numbers. 3E is 8-bit, 2 is again 8-bit. So this is basically consisting of a 3-byte. Not 3-byte. 2 is 1 byte and MVIA is 1 byte. So combinedly, you have 2-byte memory here. 2-byte being used. Here again, MVIB is represented by 6 and 4 is represented by 4. And add B is represented by 80. So this takes only 1 byte. This takes 2 bytes. This again takes 2 bytes. So you can see how your codes are getting converted into hexadecimal numbers. Okay, and once you run this particular code, since this has already been run, you will not be able to get the reference changes. But in your particular case, if you type this particular code and do the single stepping, you can see that each of these lines will be executed. When you execute this, your accumulator will be loaded with 2. Okay. So when you go to the next program, so as you can see, your accumulator value has changed to 2. Okay. Then the next will be, and as you can see, your program counter value is getting appended with 2 because this is a 2-byte instruction. So it has gone to 802. Now the next instruction, when you apply, B has been loaded with 04. Since it was already loaded, I had already executed the program, it is preloaded with 04. So the 4 goes into this particular instruction. And then finally, when you do add B, as you can see, the accumulator value has gone to 6. Okay, so the addition of 4 plus 2 has been performed and the result is stored in the accumulator. So this is an example of how this particular simulator works. You can try to comprehend this particular simulator. You can do small programs. Lots of programs are available in your particular internet. You can go through it and try to understand it. It will be good if you can try. You can get the idea about how you program your 8085 or a microprocessor. I tried my level best to convey it in a very small possible time. But again, we can have more discussions on this in the later classes. You are not here. You're not physically here. So I'm related to data transfer, then push and pop instruction, arithmetic instructions, logical operations, rotate, all these things we have seen in the last class. So we have 2 more sets of instructions which are critical. One is your branching operations and the other one is your machine control operations. Okay, so branching operations implies that this is going to change the the program counter value. We are moving from one point to a different point. In a programming concept, moving from one point to a different point implies that it is going to change the program counter value, or it is basically equivalent to a if statement or a jump. Here it's jump statement. It is basically moving to a different location where you will execute a different set of programs. Okay, so based on a particular condition or not based on a particular condition. So as you can see, Jump is a direct jump onto a particular instruction followed based on a condition. So it can be jump on carry, jump on no carry. Now, what are the conditions that you have based on a particular operation which is performed on the arithmetic by an ALU? Usually have the result in the accumulator. Based on that particular previously executed instruction, you will have a carry, no carry. There will be a result in accumulator which might have a carry, which might not have a carry, which might be having an even parity or odd parity, which will have a zero value or a non-zero. Based on that, you will make the jump. So these are conditional jumps: jump on carry, jump on no carry, jump on parity. Jump on positive number. That means if D7 bit is 0, it is positive. Jump on negative. It's basically negative. Then jump on 0, jump on non-zero, jump on parity even, jump on parity odd. So based on different conditions, you have jump statements. Okay. Then you have call statements. The difference we will see. Call is basically associated with the subroutine. Call implies not only a jump, but certain things which are performed internally by the microprocessor. Jump and call does the same thing. It changes the value of your program counter. It points to a different location, but the difference between jumping and calling is jumping, as you know, is jumping to a particular point. That's it. There is no return back. You jump and go forward. Calling, you're calling. You had gone for doing something and you're called back. So it is basically something related to moving to a particular activity, and you need to save the things which have already been done. So even though there is a movement in your program counter, there are certain additional things which are done by the microprocessor when you have a call. And return is calling, returning back from the call instruction. Call passes the control to a subroutine. It does the activity there, it's quite similar to the interrupt process, where when you are studying something, you will be interrupted, you will be going for eating and then coming back. So that is a call from your mother. When the mother calls, you will stop studying, you will move back to eating and then come back to studying. So that is done here in your 8085 microprocessor using the call statement, and the returning is done using your RAT statement. Again, all these can have the usual options of carry, no carry, positive, negative, 0, no 0, parity even, parity odd. Similar return, again, return can be based on, again, the conditions, carry, no carry, positive. All these set, always try to understand the coding method. So C implies carry, NC implies no carry, P implies positive number, M implies negative number, Z is 0 result, NZ is non-zero result, PE is parity even, PO is parity odd. Okay. And then you have your PCHL, which we already signified later. It is basically an instruction which will be used to load your HL register value into your program counter, which is basically changing the order of execution. It's a special instruction which is provided inside your particular thing. Then you have a reset instruction, which you will see, which is basically resetting the whole set of instructions which are being executed. It's a reset operation, resets the values of your registers and your program counters to a starting point. Okay. So these are the different branching operations which are performed. We will have a different. So jump will be followed by a stream bit address. So it is basically a 3-byte code. So JMP will have an 8-bit and then the stream bit code. So it's a 3-byte instruction. So these are immediate. So this will be the address which will be loaded in your program counter. Okay. So again, jump 0 all based on your flags. Then unconditional jump, it's a 3-byte instruction, as I told you. Specifies estimator, however, the second byte specifies lower order, third byte specifies higher order. So second byte will be the lower order and third byte will be the higher order. So it's an inverted format. Okay. So so this is basically an instruction which will do an unconditional jump. It moves into a particular thing. Then you have conditional jumps, the carry and the same format remains the same. So here they have told all these things. So jump P, jump on plus, which is D7 is equal to 0. Jump on minus, this is positive, this is minus. M stands for minus, P stands for plus. Plus basically means the D7, the bit is positive, and minus basically means the D7 bit is negative. So again, also you have your S flag being 0 here, and the sign flag being negative here. That is because you have your D7 bit is equal to 1. So this is based on B is equal to 1, P is equal to 0, Z is equal to 1, and Z is equal to 0. Simply D7 being 1 doesn't imply a JM. Get the point correctly, because it should have done an ALU operation. The result of it should be felt in the S. That is why S also should be 1 in order for this particular operation to be performed. Okay. Now branching operation. Okay, so other than the jump, you have the call and return. As I told you, call is something which is associated with your subroutine. The it will be followed by a 16-bit memory address similar to a jump, but the difference here is there are lots of things which are done inside your microprocessor when a call happens. Program sequence after that saves the contents of the program counter on the stack, decrements the stack pointer register by 2, jumps on a memory location specifies the second and third byte. Second byte specifies line number and third byte. This is basically same thing associated with this, because this is coming into a memory. So memory concept they are specifying with respect to a paging concept. That's it. But do not worry about that. It is basically means that this is an address of a subroutine which is written in some part of the memory. Okay. Once it goes into this particular call statement, it will start executing this particular memory, and then from there it will return once you have the RET statement. Okay, so call and RET is something which is associated with calling to a subroutine and returning from a subroutine. Okay, so return is a 1 byte instruction, inserts top 2 bytes, top stack increments, and then inserts the 2 bytes from the top of the stack into the program. So call is basically pushing the values. Return is basically popping the values, increments the stack pointer by 2, and conditionally returns also. So this is something which is associated with subroutines, or basically we call it as interrupts. Okay, hopefully you are clear with it. Then you have conditional clause call based on carry, non-carry, 0, no 0, minus, plus, everything remains the same. Same thing. The difference is here we are having a call stream similar to a jump statement. Then you have return again based on the different flags which are associated with that conditional return. This is something which you already seen. PCHL, load program counter with HL content. So program counter will be loaded with your HL content. So 1 byte instruction. It doesn't have anything along with it. It's just PCHL. You don't have any this thing. It's a implicit addressing mode instruction. It doesn't have any other things associated with it, address or other things. It affects the corresponding register which is implied. Okay, so that's it. Then a restart. RST is a restart instruction. Program execution to 00, page 00, same way as column and the so basically it works similar to your call instruction, but there are certain values which are associated with the default interrupts which are there in your program counter. So RST 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is there, which will call different addresses. So 0 implies 000H, 1 008, 2 0010, 3 18, then 20, then 28, then 30, 38. So the point here is, if you look into it, it's all multiples of 8. Okay, 0 is 0, then you have 8, 2 into 8 is 16. 16 represented in hexa is 10. Then along with it again 8, which gives you 18. This is a hexa. So this is basically multiples of 8. So how do you get the address value here? It is multiples of this particular thing. 0 into 8 is equal to 0. 1 into 8 is equal to 8. 2 into 8 is equal to 16. 16 in hexa is 10. 3 into 8 is 24. 24 in hexa is 18H. 4 and also accordingly. So you can do the according to that. You can do the calculations and see convert. So multiply the number with 8. You get a value, convert that into hexadecimal, you get the call address. So this is how RST0 or reset instruction works. It is based on the address, and it works as a call itself. The only difference is the addresses are calculated, predetermined based on a standard format. The final set of instructions are machine control instructions. The NOP instruction, which doesn't do anything. Halt is basically to stop the set of programs. DI is to disable interrupts. EI is to enable interrupts. RIM is reset interrupt mask. SIM is set interrupt mask. So these are some of the special machine control instructions associated with it. These are quite complicated, but just be aware that there are certain instructions which are associated with controlling the machine internally. So NOP is there, HLT is there, DI is there, EI is there, RIM is there, SIM is there. So many of these are associated with your interrupts. Okay, so this is the expansion of NOP, non-operation, basically to create a delay. 40 states are required, and you have 1 byte, 1 machine cycle. So halt the microprocessor, comes out of the hold state when a valid. So it makes the microprocessor move into a hold state where most of the peripherals are, it remains in a non-processing mode, and once an interrupt comes, it starts executing, depending upon the interrupt number, and then it continues with the instruction after the hold instruction. So once it interrupt occurs, it moves out of the hold. DI, disable interrupt. The interrupt is set reset and all the interrupts except the trap are disabled. Okay, this is to disable all the interrupts. Enable interrupts cannot be interrupted. If it's a critical instruction, it cannot be interrupted. Then we use disable interrupts. Enable interrupts, it enables all the interrupts. Again, it is implicit. There is no opcodes associated with it. DI, EI are implicit addressing mode instructions. This is to disable. This is to enable the interrupts. SIM set interrupt mask. This is to set up what kind of interrupts are required. So you will have an accumulator loaded with this kind of a value, where each of the bit positions are based on certain information. So serial output data, serial data enable, reset. This is don't care. This is associated with the resetting of 7.5 interrupt, MSC, mask at enable. So there are different kinds of interrupts which are supported by your particular microprocessor. 7.5, 6.5. We're not going into the details of that, as it is not part of the syllabus. But these can be set up. The controlling of these things can be set up inside the accumulator. Once this is set up, then you give SIM. So this, according to this, the functionalities will be performed. So these are your mask bits. So if you don't want these particular interrupts to happen, you can mask those interrupts. Mask so they won't be considered. So the accumulator content should be according to this format. Then you do SIM. These things will happen. Similarly, read interrupt mask. So just to read the contents of the interrupt. So what happens is it will read the contents and put it into the accumulator. So serial input data bit will be available in D7. Then interrupt pending if bit equal to 1. So this is associated with pending of the interrupts pending if bit equal to 1. Then IE interrupt enable flip flop is set if bit equal to 1. Then interrupt masked if. So you get information regarding the condition of the interrupts when you do this, and that will be available in your accumulator. So no flags are affected. Here also there is no effect on the flags, but this will give you information regarding the condition of the interrupts which are there along with the serial data as well. Okay. So these are two kinds of machines. So the whole idea is we have got an idea about what are the instructions. We have got an idea about what are the type of instructions which are used inside your 8085. Now we will move on to assembly language program. Hopefully you have an idea about how programs look like, how a simulator can be used, and how each of these instructions will work. It is not that easy to understand all set of instructions, but going through it 2-3 times, you will have an idea about what these instructions and how these instructions work. So we will try to understand it in the context of a program. Now, so a program, as you know, will have 3 major things. One is algorithm, the other one is flowchart, and the third one is a program with specified labels and appropriate comments. So always a program should have all these things. This is generic with respect to C programming, C++ programming, or any high-end program. You need an algorithm, you need a flowchart, and then you need the program. So algorithm and flowchart will try to make other people understand what this particular program is doing. Writing a program, writing one's mind is good, but if you are not able to convey that information to an XYZ person, that doesn't serve the purpose. Okay, so let's see how this will be. So we have already seen a program like this. So this is something which you have done in the previous class. All of you can take the simulator 8085 and just take the simulator and run this particular program and see how things work. Just go to sim 8085 and just typing those things which are shown in the slide in this particular main.sf place, and we will see how programs work and how this particular thing works. So in this particular program, what happens is So you can work it on by yourself. So this is a simulator where you will be able to understand things. Any doubts, you can give a this thing. I have already explained 2-3 times how this simulator looks like. And once you give the corresponding instructions in the main.asm, you should be able to see the effects of it in registers, flags, and memories. Just open this particular simulator and try out different instructions in it. See the assembler output, which is at the bottom, and see how these things works. In the if you look into the assembler output, if you write any particular code, for example, if you type in the MBI code which is given in the what is it? Sorry, if you type in the MBI A comma 2H, just check what is there inside the assembler column. Anybody can reply through the chat window. So what I want you to do is type that first statement inside the main.asm, okay, and run that. I mean, first compile it. I mean, assemble it. Not compiling, assembling. It's called as assembling because it gets converted into your what to say, this machine language. So we are giving assembly as input. That is why it is called as assembler. So what I want you to do is just type in MVI A comma 2H. Then see, once you have run this particular code, see what is there inside the assembler output. Somebody who has done it can type the output on your particular chat window. I will stop my presenting. Are you able to get this? How to do it? Are you facing any issues in that? It's an online simulator. Just go to SIM 8085. You'll be able to see the simulator. So in the simulator, in the main.asm, just type in MVI A comma 2H. Have you done that? Yeah, getting response. Are you there? All of you, please go to the site SIM 8085. Inside that particular site, inside your SIM 8085, which is a simulator which is used for your sorry, I'm not able to get it. Inside that particular SIM 8085, you will see lots of things. You will have registers at the left hand side, flags at the right hand side, memory view at the right hand side again, and then you will have an assembler output. So this is where the conversion happens. So if you write MVA A comma H, so you have three. This is where this is the symbol for doing assembling. You assemble the code, so it gets converted into your assembly language. I mean machine language. So you'll be able to see the result here in your assembler output. Then this is to run the program in one go. There is some errors. Leave that. Then you can do more than that. What you should do is run one instruction at a time. So when you run this, you will be able to see the effect in the accumulator here. So this is where you will see the effect of each of these instructions, what are the default values, and then you do this, so you can see the program counter has been incremented by 2. That is because this is a 2-byte instruction. You can have single byte, 2-byte, and the code for this is given as 3E2H. NVIA represented by 3E, and 2H is the second one. So this is a 2-byte instruction. It takes 2 bytes of memory. Are you clear? Were you able to run it?
Yes, sir.
So now the next thing what I want you to do is I'll go back to leave this particular program. So you have understood how a SIM 8085 simulator can be used. This is one example of a simulator. You have lots of simulators. I have just selected one among them. Okay. Now we will see how do you write a program in 8085 just to have an understanding of how 8085 works. So this is basically a simple addition program of two 8-bit numbers. Okay. So you supplying two 8-bit numbers and then adding it. Okay. So that's the idea. So this is the example. Now, how do you write a flowchart? I mean, how do you write a algorithm for that? How do you write a? I mean, how do you do a flowchart? That is what is going to be explained. So this is what is required. So when you analyze the problem, addition of two 8-bit numbers to be done. Logic is to add two numbers to show the result in register A. So after addition, the initial program was just addition. The accumulator had the result. Whereas in this particular program, you want to store it into a register called as register C. So what will be the steps? So this is what happening. This is an example. This is what will happen inside your microprocessor. This is what is going to be done by the microprocessor. Now moving to the next step. So first thing that is required is we need to get the two numbers. Okay. So in order to do that, what is done is the first number is loaded in register D, second number is loaded in register E. Copy the contents of D to A. Okay, the register D is to be copied to A. Add register E to A. So A has the values in register D, which has been loaded with the contents which are required. Then E is added to the register A. So E already has the contents. So A from the D register we had copied it to A. Then E to A addition is done. Then the result of the copy A to the register C and stop processing. Those are the steps which are there with respect to your program. This is what we call it as algorithm. So get the two numbers, add them, store the result, stop. So if you want to add something, you get the numbers, add them, store the result, stop. Now to get the numbers, how do you get it? You get it from registers. So first load the number into register, second load the number into register. So that is what is being happening here, and add them. In order to add, you need to copy one into the accumulator. So one of the operands is the accumulator. So you copy one number into the accumulator, then add it with the other number, store the result back to it. So this is basically how you write a program. I mean, how you write a algorithm. Then flowchart. It is basically something which is represented in this kind of start and stop is used by when this kind of a parallel lines. What is it called? So I believe that you have done basic C programming to understand a flowchart. So usually the loading, the values are trapezium kind of box is used for that. Squarish box for any kind of operations which are performed. So start, load the registers, copy D to A, add A to E, copy A to C, and then stop. So this is how a flowchart will look like. And finally, so this has to be converted into a program. So this will be the program. And what I want you to do is just type this particular program in your 8085 simulator. Okay. Just type this particular program in your 8085 simulator.